The exact details, obviously I wasn't there, but it was one morning I was going to work, about to go to work, and I got a stark phone call. I mean, it's one thing when you are anticipating something maybe happening to somebody you love because they're in the armed services or something, but I wasn't expecting anything. The phone call was short. It just said, did I know that Anna was dead and she committed suicide an hour or two before the phone call? And that was it. And you're left in a kind of limbo. Is this right? Can it be right? Why on earth? I was due to meet her. I knew that she had a troubled mind in that particular week. I'd been speaking to her on the telephone, but I thought I detected a sort of improvement, and maybe that was a delusion, but in any event, completely shocked. And you go through a gamut of emotions. You know, you're angry, you're guilty, you're upset, you're trying to come to terms with something that was totally unexpected.
Did you have any idea that something was seriously wrong? You say you had an inkling she was troubled.
Yes, she was troubled, and I think it's not just this age, but I mean the times we live in, austerity. She had been given notice of redundancy. Now she was a working mother, with her husband also. They had 2 young children who have a very, very rare blood disease which requires a lot of treatment, and it means you're having to watch them all the time. So she's got all that already, and I think somehow the threat of losing her job triggered in her mind very quickly. The notice was in the middle of April. 3 weeks later, on May the 1st, 3 months ago, she died. She'd taken the decision that she couldn't face the future. And she left a note, effectively saying that she felt she'd failed the children. And of course, all of us around know she hadn't failed the children at all.
What was she like?
Well, as an individual, she was, and this is the other shocking thing. I mean, it's bad for anybody, but here was an ebullient, courageous, loving, social young woman. And everybody who knew her, everybody who came to the funeral, and there were hundreds came, could not get to grips that she, of all people, decided she couldn't go on when she had so much support. And I know at the funeral myself, I sort of felt, if only she could see now all the people who stood by her, still stand by her. So that was it. And I just sort of thought, it was at the funeral, I suddenly realized, if I hadn't before, because I mentioned suicide, and people said, that's the elephant in the room. Nobody talks about suicide. And the more I've begun to talk about it to other people, I've realized there is a taboo, in a sense, with this. And you're stigmatized. And it goes back to the early 1960s. Not so long before I started practice, suicide was a crime, which is why the word committed comes in. Committed a crime. And although people may be perhaps not so conscious of that, that's what's carried over. There was a time when if you were part of a family where there'd been a suicide, you were almost banned from the town and you were buried outside and all the rest of it.
But you say there is still that stigma.
Yeah.
How did you feel then when you found that out and when you had to tell other people what had happened?
Well, I just felt it was important. I think it's important to share. And I think it's important to address these things that we don't like to talk about because we feel there's some kind of shame. And suicide is underreported for the same reason, because they don't want coroners necessarily to come back with that kind of verdict. And I just felt it was important to breach the barrier, is get people talking. And the idea tomorrow in Leamington, at the assembly rooms there, is in fact not so much to produce a panel of pundits, but actually get ordinary people to come out of the woodwork and for once just share. Ordinary people share to make that first step towards a recognition that actually, if you're feeling guilty, if you're feeling angry, so are many others. And you begin to accommodate. And we've got involved people who've tried to commit suicide more than once. We've got people who's within one family there's been more than one suicide. And I find everywhere you go, somebody has been touched by this. And I think what I want to say really for tomorrow is, whoever you are, wherever you are, please come. It's an opportunity to talk. Tickets are free. You can get it through Anna Christian Events, Yvette Greenway. Just ring up or do it on the website and come and share. And we hope that as a result, I think it's the first time anything quite like this has happened, a network of forums and discourse will be, as it were, put out there for the benefit of all those who suffer in silence. It's called The Silence of Suicide.
And we'll put the details of that event on our website so people can access it if they are interested and it's relevant to them.
Thank you.
But I just wonder, what would you say to Anna now?
That's the difficult one. We've done a little film introduced by Ruby Wax. And one of the people who suffered 2 suicides in the same family was asked this question. And he said if he had the 2 people who died back again, he wanted to ask them to recognize the legacy, what is left behind for others. I approach it differently. The only way I've come to terms with it is to say she was a brilliant young woman. She had an independent mind and spirit. And if she was sitting right there now, I'd say, and I think she'd want me to say, look, Dad, just get on. This was my decision. And so now I believe it was her decision. However unbalanced she may have been in the very short time she's descended into this realm, this dark period of her life, I have to respect what she did.
Michael Mansfield, thank you so much for coming in and for your candour, and we wish you well with the event tomorrow.
Thank you very
much indeed. Thanks.